Hello and welcome to Hitting the Field. I'm your host, Jeremy Taché. And Chris Davis and Carl Maximilianard join me for the first round of competition. But before we get to that, we start with a message. Since the start of the NFL season, there has been much discussion about race, patriotism, and expressions of unity. It started with Colin Kaepernick taking a knee during the national anthem. It continued with players all around the NFL, either joining him in taking a knee, linking arms, or holding up fists during the national anthem. This became a national trend. But I'm here to talk about Mike Evans. Evans did not stand last week during the anthem, which was a protest that he said was against the results of our presidential election. Prominent political leaders and sports commentators alike talked about how this was a way out of line and how Evans needed to apologize, which he eventually did and said he wouldn't protest again. But see, this is where I have a problem. How can we be so okay with the suppression of free speech and freedom of expression? I'm not here to talk about whether or not Evans was right in how or why he decided to protest. That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. I'm concerned, as we all should be, for our rights. In the lobby of this building hangs a plaque of the First Amendment. There's a reason that our professors want us to see it every day when we walk in. As journalists, the First Amendment is our scripture. Free speech is easy for us to accept when it's not controversial. Free speech is easy for us to accept when it doesn't offend anyone. Free speech needs to be easy for us to accept, period. Evans was criticized because he did not vote. And I can agree that it hurts his credibility in a criticism of a process in which he did not participate. Everyone understands that, and so did he. But the problem is that the question became, what right does he have to protest the result? I'll tell you, all the right in the world provided by the Constitution of this country. You don't shed your constitutional rights just because you didn't choose to bubble in a ballot box. In a time where the lengths to which the First Amendment protects us seems to be questioned by more and more of our leaders, we need to remain united behind individuals that speak out, whether we agree with them or don't believe in a word of what they say. That's the reason America has always been great and will continue to be. All right, that's enough of the heavy stuff, and we're going to start our competition coming back with Chris and Carl. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
We had another horrendous Thursday night football game this week. Yes, it was only decided by 3 points, but I think we can all agree this was never really a good game. This one comes after a Ravens blowout of the Browns and a Falcons and Bucks game that featured some tremendous catches, but again, bad football. Chris, is it the time that we just flat out eliminate Thursday night football?
It might not necessarily be time to eliminate it, but, why not NBC? Why not a local station? You have ABC that has their Thursday night shows that are doing phenomenal. You have TNT Inside the NBA, which is an Emmy Award-winning show that's breaking box records, in their ratings. So, Thursday night football is kind of getting pushed to the back burner. So they need to make an adjustment in where they're housing their show because not a lot of people are tuning into NFL Network.
Right, but it's not just about whether or not we're tuning in. It's bad football. So, Carl, can we continue to have games on Thursday if we're getting a bad, concept?
It's just, I think we don't abolish Thursday night football. It's just this year with the ratings and whatnot, football just hasn't been great this year. We've had kickers miss plenty of point after touchdowns and just the matchups you usually would see, like if you had it before the season, like this week, Carolina Panthers versus New Orleans Saints. Reigning NFC champion, high-power offense with the New Orleans Saints. You would figure it's a good matchup, and that's what the NFL hopes for. But lately, with a lot of penalties going on and just not crisp, clean football right now, there just hasn't been a great Thursday night football game. But hopefully, going on forward with this season and maybe on to next season, we'll get some great matchups that the NFL and us viewers are looking for.
Well, hopefully. And another "the NFL has been bad" segment. Yesterday, kickers missed 12 point-after attempts on Sunday. 12. You just talked about this, Carl. It's time to have the conversation. Seriously, should we just eliminate the point-after attempt?
We shouldn't eliminate it, but it's the fact that the kickers have one job and one job to do. Kick the football between the uprights. It shouldn't be that hard, and pushing the point attempt back after a couple of years shouldn't challenge these kickers to do their job. But that's why you see teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers who go for 2 almost every single time. They don't trust their kicker, and they figure their high-powered offense with Ben Roethlisberger, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown will get the job done. So I don't necessarily say that you should get rid of the point after attempt, but kickers, you have one job to do. Kick the football.
Does it make more sense for us to just go to a system where everyone's always going for 2, or there's the possibility of, maybe going for 1 from a certain yard mark or going for 2 for another? Chris, we'll bring this one to you.
It's time to make your money. That's what it's time to do. Over the last 2 years, it's been 161 2-point conversions. They're converting at 53.7% this year in 2-point conversions. What that's telling me is that at the 15-yard line, they're saying, okay, we have a better chance at getting a 2 than we do kicking a field goal. So if you want to make your money, you better start making field goals and not missing 12 field goals in a game. They're still, even with the inclement weather that we saw last game, they still hit 79% of their field goals, down from 92 from the general season. So it's just time to make your money. You want to get paid in this league, then you better start making it. It's called football. So at the end of the day, you better use your foot and hit it through the upright.
It is football for a reason. And here's a reminder that this is a weekly show, and so this is our first chance to talk about Tony Romo's concession speech. He relinquished the starting job. Not sure he truly had a choice, but nonetheless, he did it. And I'm going to be honest, I have to give him some serious credit. Now, in the offseason, the Cowboys will likely look to trade him. So which team should make the move, Chris?
I got the Broncos. I think that would be, you got to look at it. It's Elway. Elway does a tremendous job of orchestrating a team and putting a team together. I think people are, undermining that one thing. You look at it, he did it with Peyton. Peyton had a huge year, even though it kind of went down after.
Is Tony Romo really Peyton Manning?
He's not Peyton Manning, but when you put it, all you need is a guy who can manage the game better, who's had experience doing so, who's had some playoff experience with the defense. And last time Cowboys, Romo was with the Cowboys, they had a defense, had a running game. That's something the Broncos have. They just need a quarterback who can manage the game better and at a higher level.
And Carl?
I would agree that Denver would be his best shot, but look at the vaunted defenses in the AFC West. You got Kansas City and you got Oakland. They can get to you. Khalil Mack on the other hand, and Justin Houston over in Kansas City. If Romo takes one more big hit, his career could be over. But a supplemental team that I would suggest for him to go to, probably, as vaunted as it sounds, Cleveland. They've been going through a quarterback carousel for the last, 15 years. They just can't get the quarterback position settled. Why not get a secure veteran like Tony Romo, who can throw to your young receivers and Terrell Pryor and Corey Coleman? Now you have a rookie out there. So you have some young talent on the outside for Cleveland. Get a vaunted veteran quarterback out there. So Cleveland Browns, you should sign up for Tony Romo.
Man, that is where quarterbacks go to die. But I understand it. Hey, how about the Arizona Cardinals? That's a happy medium for both of you. A team that's underachieving, has a good defense, decent line. Nonetheless, the New York Giants, Detroit Lions, Washington Redskins, and Atlanta Falcons have all been great this year. But the Seattle Seahawks and Romo's, or Dak Prescott's Cowboys, seem to be running away with the NFC. These are clearly the 2 best teams in the conference. But which team will win it when things are all said and done, Carl?
It's as surprising and as hurtful as it is to say it, I have to go with the Cowboys. They have just been playing great football, #1 rushing attack. Dak is playing like a seasoned vet, and you got to give credit where credit is due. That O-line, even though Zeke is the front runner for MVP this year, you got to go with the O-line. They're the real MVPs on the team. So definitely the Cowboys, 9-1, best team in the NFL. 9-game win streak, 8-game win streak. You just can't stop the Cowboys right now.
Chris, you're shaking your head over there. I got to know what you have to say right now.
Zeke's eating. He's eating this year.
Right?
He's eating this year.
You know I like you. But let me tell you why you're wrong.
Tell me why.
Who in the world have the Cowboys played? The best team they played, record-wise, 7-3 Giants. Guess what they did? They lost the game. Everybody else they've played, Redskins would be their best win at 6-3, which is a divisional game. I'll give you that. But they haven't played or won against any other division winners. The Seahawks have beaten the Patriots 8-2. They've also beaten the 6-4 Falcons, who also lead their division. They've also beaten the 6-4 Dolphins within their division. And on top of that, they've also beaten teams that the Cowboys have beaten, like the Eagles. So the Patriots it's, when you have that type of game that you play against them and you're able to beat that team, I have to say that at the end of the day, when we get on the gridiron, it's Seahawks all day, man. You need to hop off that Cowboy juice.
Hey, man.
I'm not one
Hey,
of
look. We can all agree both are great teams, but I think what's going to end up having won Chris this round, and the winner is Chris. What wins him this round is, number one, Carl. Really? The Browns? You really want Romo to go to the Browns? And Chris brought it on that last one. So we're going to wrap it up in this first segment and head to commercial. Chris is the winner, and we'll come back after this with Dimitri and Jimmy to talk some college football with you. So join us after the break.
Welcome back, everyone. Chef Nicole here at our studio kitchen to tell you about the fantastic new breakthrough in cutlery, the Dyna Blade. This knife is the latest in cutting technology. Also, it's extremely safe to use. Okay, folks. Wow. Yeah, the blade sure does cut. Hey, Jim, where's Jim? I'm losing a lot of blood here, guys. Jim, can we cut, please? I'm really starting to feel woozy.
I love my new Dyna Blade. I can cut through anything. And it's super safe. Oh, I did it. Guys, I cut myself. It's not safe.
She's out, guys. Can somebody call an ambulance, please? And cut to the logo. Oh, God, where's her finger? Oh, God, I'm gonna be sick. I can't find a pulse. I
don't know what's wrong with me, Doc. I think I'm just having an existential issue, maybe. What if I'm a nihilist?
I know just a cure.
Gee, Doc, anything.
It's called MDPL, multidimensional perspective layering, and it's known to have strong effects on the human psyche. It results in the restoration of confidence and a sense of one's place in the universe.
Oh, man, that sounds like the perfect solution to make me myself again.
Well, here goes nothing.
Side effects of multidimensional perspective layering include, but are not limited to, extreme fits of happiness, loss of agitation, loss of stress, loss of world peace, a new sense of connectivity with your fellow man.
Welcome back to Hitting the Field. I am now joined by Dimitri Zamaris on the outside, Jimmy Calhoun on the inside for our college football segment. Things were relatively steady on Saturday, but back on Thursday, Houston took down Louisville. The Cardinals threw away their shot, Hamilton reference, at the playoff. On the other end of the conversation, though, is Houston and the American Athletic Conference. Since the Big 12 neglected to expand, the AAC has been using it as an opportunity to lobby for a Power 6 instead of a Power 5. With wins like this, they're making a real case. Is this realistic, Dimitri, a Power 6?
Not in the terms that the AAC is trying to sell it. The way I look at the AAC, they're a great conference. We're definitely the next best conference outside of the Power 5, but we're not nearly on the same level as those conferences are as a whole yet. If you look, the AAC is 7-13 against Power 5 opponents this year as a whole. ECU had a big dealing in that. They've played, I think, 3 or 4 games against Power 5 teams. But if you look at it, in the last 3 seasons since the AAC has basically been formed, there's only been 5 top 25 final AP finishes, and that was 2 at the first year when UCF won the Fiesta Bowl, 1 in 2014, and then 2 again last year in 2015 when we had Navy and Houston. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the AAC should be volleying for that Power 6, but they're definitely a great conference.
But even with the lack of success with the Big 12 this year, or teams in the SEC that really haven't been that good, I mean, you're seeing weakness at the bottom of conferences. You could argue that the top part, at least, of the AAC rather, is, even to par with some of the others. So, Jimmy, can they make a case?
That's what I would argue, but I don't think the Power 6 is the option. I think these top teams from other Group of 5 conferences should lobby and go into the Power 5 conferences, whether it's UCF in the Big 12 or have the Big 12 actually have 12 teams, and then have schools like Navy, Cincinnati, Houston. If you want to even do it by location, have Houston go to the Big 12. Have UCF maybe do the ACC, or have San Diego State go to the Pac-12.
So kind of a combination of conferences.
A combination of conferences.
Okay.
Have each conference add a couple of the high-powered teams in the group of 5, and I think it would work.
Okay, that's an interesting way to go with it. And going back to the top of college football, other than Alabama, there is not one singular team that is deserving of making the playoff without at least a small argument. Is the 14 playoff really the best solution for college football? We'll start with you, Jimmy.
I would like to see it go to 8 teams. First of all, it's more entertaining. Second of all, you have more teams with an opportunity to win it all. The first year of the playoffs, we saw a 4 seed win it all. So who says a 5, 6, 7, or 8 seed cannot win it all? You got teams like Oklahoma, Wisconsin, Penn State, all in that 5, 6, 7, 8 range, who I believe could have a shot to beat teams like Ohio State, Michigan. Oklahoma's offense can go with anyone. Wisconsin's defense can go with anyone. I think it's unfair to not give those teams a shot. 8 teams would just be the better look.
And Dimitri?
Well, I like the 14 playoff format. I think the problem with the 14 playoff is the committee. Mm-hmm. And I would like to see an adjustment in how the top 4 teams are picked. Maybe you take the average of the AP poll, the committee still has a say, and the coaches poll, and hey, maybe you dust off the BCS computers. you get 4 from there, and you just take the average of those 4 pollings, and then I think you would. That's a much better formula for constructing a 14 playoff.
A literal formula with the computers.
Right. And one thing I would say though, what we have to keep in mind is this is college football. These are student athletes, and I know the NCAA doesn't particularly care about the students going to class as much as they should, but that's something to keep in mind. The more games there are, the more these students are going to be missing classes, and you have to think there's big gaps in between the playoff games already.
Right.
So how much class would these student athletes have to miss? That's something
right at the start of their next semester.
Right. So if you expand the playoff to 8 teams, how much school are they missing?
Yeah, that's a great point to make. It's going to be interesting to see the way that can work out. And continuing with playoff talk, the top 4 teams are likely to stay the same, but there are clearly a few teams on the outside looking in with a real argument to be made for them. So give me your team that should be in the top 4 that isn't there, and why. Dimitri?
Well, my argument is going to be Colorado, America's team. They got C.O. Lufau playing quarterback. He's extremely fun to watch. He's a gritty, tough quarterback. I like the moxie he brings to the team. They have
grit.
Grit. They have a stout defense in the Pac-12, the number 1 passing defense in the Pac-12. They just beat number 22 Washington State. They're probably going to be the Pac-12 North champions, which means they'll probably cross paths with Washington in the Pac-12 championship game, which means if they beat Utah this week, who is probably still going to be ranked in the top 25, and then they beat Washington, they could even end up in the playoffs. Right. And I mean, what Mike McIntyre has done in Colorado, in Boulder, considering the state of the program when he took over, it's really amazing, and this season has been one for the Buffs to remember.
I think it's Oklahoma. I mean, they had 2 losses early in the season, but they were to quality opponents. Houston when they were on fire, and you saw what Houston did to Louisville on Thursday, and to Ohio State. They're on, I think, a 7-game win streak, just blowing out opponents. Like I said, their offense can hang with anyone in the country. Baker Mayfield's a top quarterback. They have a top receiver. Their defense is playing all right for a Big 12 defense. They're probably
all right for the Big 12.
All right for the Big 12.
That's
But again, the offense can score with anyone like Ohio State or Alabama. And I believe that they are going to be Big 12 champions. They've already beaten West Virginia. Their strength of schedule has been harder than Colorado and Washington. I believe they have a strong case.
Yeah, it's just tough for me to feel like the Big 12 can even have someone go forward at this point. Look, Oklahoma's a good team. I'll give them credit. Baker Mayfield, good quarterback. Very good quarterback. They have great coaching. They have great players on the outside, but it's just so tough for me to say Big 12 and an all-right defense in the Big 12. I don't know. And Colorado really has done a lot. The Pac-12 has been much better this year. It's tough. It's a tough discussion. How about University of Southern California? I know if we're talking with your perspective of they had quality losses early. Well, they lost to Alabama. That doesn't count.
Colorado
and they've been an
USC
incredible team. Right. I mean, it's been an interesting year. Well, it'll be great to see the way it shakes out. And so now we take a look forward. It's officially rivalry week. And although I know we would all love to talk about UCF and USF, that's irrelevant. We have to address the games with playoff implications. There's Florida versus Florida State, Auburn versus Alabama, and of course, Ohio State versus Michigan. These are the biggest games of the weekend. But Jimmy, which is the biggest?
I got to go with the Iron Bowl. I know the obvious choice is Ohio State and Michigan because of the playoff implications. But in 5 of the last 6 years, the winner of the Iron Bowl has won the SEC. In 3 of the last 4 years, the winner of the Iron Bowl has played in the national championship game, and 2 of those have been national champions in Alabama. The rivalry's been going on for over 100 years. It's always a good game to watch. Everyone remembers the kick 6 that sent Auburn to the national championship. But usually this game determines the SEC winner, and usually the SEC winner is a favorite to win the national championship.
And Dimitri?
I'll say usually it'll do that, but obviously Alabama's going to win the SEC this year, regardless of what happens. The big question, the Ohio State versus Michigan game has the biggest implications on the playoffs, because if you listen to anyone, they will tell you the winner of that game is probably going to make the playoffs,
right,
and the loser is out of the race completely. So when you want to talk about big games and historic rivalries, this is a rivalry between 2 of the best head coaches in college football now too, Urban Meyer and Jim Harbaugh,
right,
and they're competing for the same sort of recruits. So this goes deeper than just this season. Michigan, Ohio State, that's a year-long brag fest for whichever team wins. So I'd have to go with the game up north in Columbus, Ohio this weekend.
And you have to remember that Auburn did upset Alabama 2 years ago. There's a chance.
Right. There's always a chance that it happens, and Auburn is not a bad football team. You know, Auburn has an opportunity to make some headlines, at least, with what's going on right now against Alabama. But Ohio State and Michigan will determine who goes to the playoff. I think even if Auburn beats Alabama's still probably going to be a top 4 team.
And they still go to the SEC championship game.
Right. So now, because of that, it was a pretty even match throughout, but that final pick from Dimitri Zamaris is going to send him on to the next round. And so we will be back after this on Hitting the Field with our joust round between Dimitri and Chris. So stay tuned.
Coming for you, Chris.
Welcome back, everyone. Chef Nicole here at our studio kitchen to tell you about the fantastic new breakthrough in cutlery, the Dyna Blade. This knife is the latest in cutting technology. Also, it's extremely safe to use. Okay, folks. Wow. Yeah, that blade sure does cut. Hey, Jim, where's Jim? I'm losing a lot of blood here, guys. Jim, can we cut, please? I'm really starting to feel woozy.
I love my new Dyna Blade. I can cut through anything. And it's super safe. Oh, I did it. Guys, I cut myself. It's not safe.
She's out, guys. Can somebody call an ambulance, please? And cut to the logo. Oh, God, where's her finger? Oh, God, I'm gonna be sick. I can't find a pulse. I can't find a pulse.
I don't know what's wrong with me, Doc. I think I'm just having an existential issue, maybe. What if I'm a nihilist?
I know just a cure.
Gee, Doc. Anything.
It's called MDPL, multidimensional perspective layering, and it's known to have strong effects on the human psyche. It results in the restoration of confidence and a sense of one's place in the universe.
Oh, man, that sounds like the perfect solution to make me myself again.
Well, here goes nothing.
Side effects of multidimensional perspective layering include, but are not limited to, extreme fits of happiness, loss of agitation, loss of stress, thoughts of world peace, a new sense of connectivity with your fellow man, random acts of kindness.
We're back with our joust round here on Hitting the Field. I'm Jeremy Taché. I'm joined by Chris Davis and Dimitri Zamaris. And even after a tough loss last night to Villanova, the Knights basketball program is off to its best start in years under Johnny Dawkins. Tacko Fall and company have been efficient and have brought excitement back to this program. So how high should expectations be, Chris?
Well, I just finished talking to somebody within the organization with the team.
Sources.
And they're really positive. They feel that they can compete with anyone. You know, I think their defense tightened up. They came out the half and were really motivated, and they feel that they can be really good, that they could potentially be one of those top 3 teams within the AAC.
Interesting. And Dimitri?
Well, I don't have any fancy sources like my good friend Chris here. I'm not as dialed in, but one thing I will say is I definitely have been enthused by what I've seen from the Knights so far this year, especially with Tacko Fall and the energy it seems like they're playing with under new coach Johnny Dawkins. I think they could finish, in the upper echelon of the AAC. It'll be interesting to see how we play against teams like Cincinnati and UConn, who are always in the tournament.
Right, more from that fan perspective, we'll say.
Right.
And so last week, the MLB awards were all released. Mike Trout and Chris Bryant both won MVPs. And Max Scherzer and Rick Porcello won the Cy Young. So which was the biggest surprise to you guys? Mitch, we'll start with you.
Well, for me, I'd say Mike Trout winning MVP was kind of surprising considering that the Angels weren't, a very good team. And, we see in other sports, it's usually the best player on the best team. I feel like Mike Trout's gotten to the point in baseball where it's just like, oh, it's the MVP, just give it to Mike Trout.
Right.
I mean, he's earned the benefit of the doubt at this point, and he played pretty well this year. But to say that he was an MVP, you'd like to see an MVP raise the level of his team. And so that's something I would definitely say was surprising to me.
And Chris?
It's got to be Verlander for me. I think Kate Upton put a lot of uproar on social media, but he led the AL in strikeouts, WHIP, which is basically can you get keeping them from getting on base, and he also led them. It says here in wins above replacement. So, I think the problem with him is, kind of when you win it in 2011, you're kind of fighting against yourself.
Right, you're holding up to that expectation.
So I think that's kind of why he didn't win it. But that was definitely still a surprise seeing his statistical
And it was a surprise to see Kate Upton on Twitter the way she was.
Oh,
and
yeah.
while we stuff our mouths on Thursday, James Harden and Russell Westbrook will continue to stuff the stat sheets. I know it's early, but both have a chance to average a triple-double this year. So who's more likely to be the first to do it since Big O? Chris?
It's got to be Russell Westbrook. You regress to the mean. Right now, James Harden's averaging a career-high 7.8 rebounds per game, but his career is 4 a game. You look at Westbrook, he averaged 7.8 rebounds per game last year.
Right.
He's averaging 9.7 this year, and they're going to have the assists. But I think Harden, because he's going to be farther away from the basket, he's not going in gang rebounding most times. He's going to go lower. Westbrook's going to stay in the game longer. He's also going to crash the boards, and he'll stat stuff that way.
And Dimitri?
The thing I'd like to say, I think it might be James Harden because he has such a cushion already on the points and the assists. He's sitting at about 13 assists per game right now, which is ridiculous. I think Westbrook is below 10 assists right now.
He's got 10.7.
He's got 10. Okay, well, either way, I think that, like you said, it is Harden's career year so far in rebounding. I don't think that the rebounding is that big of a challenge. If he starts seeing that he can get to the triple-double, you'll see him, start to care a little bit more on the offensive and defensive glass. Try and get it. And he's been great all year, getting it out to other shooters, creating for himself and for his teammates. So I think Harden has just as good of a chance, if not better, than Russell Westbrook at this point.
It's tough to make a decision on that one, but through the credibility that he brought with his sources, and through the research that was clearly done, looking up stats like WAR and WHIP, I'm gonna have to give the victory to Chris. All right, so that's our show. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Hitting the Field to keep up with the show and to check on everything and to see what Chris's night vision is going to be. So
this is unbelievable.
Thank you once again for joining us. We really appreciate having you guys here on Hitting the Field.
Boys.
And I just have to say I'm really thankful for a lot of things this year. I've been lucky to have many different things go on in my life, but I'm incredibly thankful to be working with this cast and crew here on Hitting the Field. We're thankful to have you guys as an audience. So we will see you in 7 days, and we look forward to having a great time with you. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving weekend.
Kobe.
Buzzer. Oh.
Football and Tumblr may leave your information vulnerable. UCF Hack Team spokesperson